Oh, here we go.
Now you
We've been working with these questions since 1978, researching the foundations of a nonviolent culture, experimenting with how the world that we create can become compatible with the world that has created us. Taking a holistic approach, we've been addressing the basic areas of human life. We are establishing what we call a healing biotope, showing that we can in fact live together in cooperation and trust, honoring the earth and all that lives. In a healing biotope, all different social and ecological solutions are fused into a unified system, a blueprint for a possible post-capitalist society. Through the Healing Biotopes Plan, we seek to support global system change, bringing together a planetary community around a shared vision. Incubating centers and regions around the world to model a new system that can make the existing one obsolete. We invite you all. Let's collaborate. Let's defend the sacred. Let's lead the transition into a regenerative and more peaceful world.
So, hi everybody. This was the introductory video, beautiful video from our friends here, the Tamera community in Portugal. You can see this video again if you just visit their website, tamera.org. It's there, so you can check it later. My name is Pele, Ohad Pele. Many of you are friends, and many know each other. We know each other, and many are new. So welcome. I'm here with my beloved Don Cherie. We are partners of 18 years. together, both of us are lead facilitators in ISTA. And both of us are in deep friendship for all those years, actually a little more even, with those two other friends of ours, Sabine Lichtenfels and Benjamin von Mendelssohn from the Tamera community. Sabine was involved in establishing the community, and Benjamin is one of the founders of the Global Love School. And Benjamin will also be the moderator of our talk. I just wanted to invite us all to this beautiful experience that is ahead of us of connecting ISTA and Tamera. We wanted to do that for a long, long time. So here we are.
Thank you, Ohad. And warm welcome to everybody in this online version of community. When Dawn, Sabine, Ohad and I talked, we thought, even though it's online, we want to bring in some of the real life ceremonial frequency. And therefore I would invite the four of us to speak an invocation to the elements. In the video it was said, the world that we come from. And we are built of these elements of water, fire, earth and air. So I ask us to speak the dedication and then enter a conversation about the healing of love and sexuality.
Should I start this? So, welcome to all of you. I brought just as a symbol a little rattle to greet all the beings on this beautiful, beautiful planet, Mother Earth. And I have a little box here in my hand, and here is sacred earth from Standing Rock, from the Lakota people. And just to remind ourselves that if we as humanity would find the intelligence to really know where we are living at and how we are embraced from this beautiful planet, if we learn to inhabit our body and our Mother Earth in the way how she wants to be perceived. So I greet the earth and I greet the miracle of life. I greet the immense miracle that we are able to communicate and cooperate with all beings. And may the next hour or the next 2 hours serve this kind of revelation of our inner love to life. Welcome, Mother.
Amen.
Fire?
Pele, do you have the fire?
And I need to unmute myself. Yes, you can see that I'm fire, right? I dedicate our meeting for passion, for creativity, for transformation. Fire is such a, in some ways, what makes us unique from other animals is our ability to work in cooperation with fire. No other animal that we know of knows how to work with fire. Fire brings also guns and wars, but fire also cook food and warm us in the winter, and is the fire of our passion and sexuality. And fire is the element in alchemy that creates transformation. So may we be humble and work in cooperation with all those aspects of fire. May our fire burn and be healthy and good for us and for the planet. Water.
Amen. I honor the water that is within our beings, that feels life itself, that resonates with the water that is in the planet, that is within our lakes and our rivers and our oceans. I'm here surrounded by water in upstate New York, in the Great Lakes all around me, the rushing Niagara Falls in Western New York, in the Lake Erie in Ontario, and it's covering all this fresh water all around us. And I'm aware of how deeply we need this precious water and how abundant it is, as I have lived in Israel in the desert, and now I'm surrounded again by the abundance of water. So I honor this, that water may run clean, then pure, and I honor the emotions that are in our bodies. May we move with our emotions and not be flooded with emotions, but learn how to support them. And as the water retention landscapes in Tamera are learning how to work with water, may we learn how to work with the water in our bodies and the water of our healthy emotions. Amen.
Aho.
Oh, thank you. Air. I actually have the pleasure that this tree that you see behind us is a real one. It's not a background. It's I mean, it is a background, but a real one. So we keep hearing the wind in the air, in the leaves of the trees. And I brought one feather, as all the winged people that now in these Corona times have a chance again to be the main inhabitants of the heavens. Yeah, while the sky is a little bit quieter with a human civilization, there's a chance that the people of the air gain their ground again. And I asked air to be with us as spirit, carrying ourselves, our souls, to the place where we grow wings to fly. And I also read the air as one of the elements that connects us so often and so quickly. We all share the same earth. We all share the same water. We all share the same fire. And where we feel it immediately is we are breathing the same air as we are one humanity with all the other people of this earth. Animal kingdom breathing the same air. The whole plant kingdom doing the opposite, so that we complement each other with what we need to breathe. And for this beauty of cooperation that is vast and ancient, I greet the air and ask the blessing of the element of air on our conversation. Aho.
Oh,
Mm. Good. Now after being welcomed by Ohad into the ISTA festival and community, I can say that this is a moment that we have been circling for a long time. And all four of us work with the issues of love, sexuality, and community in different ways. And so when we talked before, we thought it would be important for us in a conversation to link these two areas of life, love and sexuality and community building. So we picked this title, Healing of Love and Sexuality in a Community of Trust. And I would take it actually as the first question from there, also sitting here with the co-founder of Tamera, having met Pele, Ohad 20 years ago in his community above the Dead Sea, and Ohad and Dawn being involved in community building on a different level for the last years in the ISTA community. So I put this question first. What do these things, healing, love, and sexuality, have to do with a community of trust? And also, when I ask you as a first person, what does a community of trust really mean? Yeah.
First of all, I hope you can hear us better now. Some people wrote that you cannot hear us. Yes,
we hear you, also hear the wind.
Okay.
Air element.
So we try to stay with the wind, and if it's too loud, we have to change place. But for me, speaking about community, it's great to hear the wind, great to have the water just on the side, because often when we speak about community, we only speak about the human part in it. But for me, it's very, very important to bring in that we are community beings, whether we want or not. And there is the point that I feel that we lost community wisdom, where we can connect the invisible part of life and the visible part of life in a natural ethic. And there, of course, trust means I'm not driven by fear. And when I look back to the last centuries, thousands and thousands of years, we are so under punishment of errors. Errors was the evil in the way how we were educated. And so I feel it as one of the most important, deepest point towards healing, that we understand what it does mean that our nature is a free nature. And how is this kind of free nature really possible, that we connected with this longing for faithfulness? And there I see such a deep wound in humanity. And as a co-founder of Tamera, our main question is, until today, how can we create a culture, and I say a culture or a system where real trust is possible? And this is not possible as long as our errors is so hidden, so transparent, so intransparent. I would say there is nearly any area where we lie so much, where we don't dare to really reveal who we really are as women, as men, as transgender, and so on. So this in short words as introduction.
Okay, that was condensed. Are you ready to speak, Ohad, to the connection between the healing of love and community?
Yeah, for me, I totally agree with what Sabine said about being who we are is being in community. It's in my understanding, we are apes. We are intelligent cosmic apes, and the ape part of us is a part of a tribe, a community, a clan. We're not solitary animals. Some of us might be more hermits, but even hermits are usually the hermit of this and that community. You know, the kind of the one that this community sends to be in the mountains and do the work for everybody. And I think one of the horrors and the big pains of the modern era is that we really lost any wisdom about how to live in community. Now, not that I think that in the ancient time they had all the answers. I don't think so. I think modernity actually brought a lot to the table, such as individuality, which has its curse, but also has its blessing. And we will not go back from individuality, probably. It brought mobility. So people can travel from one community to another, and people can also work not in the job that, you know, you were born a farmer, you will die as a farmer, your father was a farmer, your son will be a farmer. It doesn't matter if they have other capabilities. They were, you know, because they were born to a family of farmers, they need to be farmers. So modernity brought a lot of mobility in terms of that too, like the individual can choose a lot, and this is beautiful. This is an element that was missing, I think, in old communities. Now the challenge in our time is how to preserve the respect, the deep respect to every individual to express their soul and who they are and what they choose and for themselves, even their gender, and even, you know, and everything, and do that in a community and have real commitment to community. I think, you know, from my perspective, what I want to ask you guys, and I want to engage in this conversation with you, even though we are engaged in this conversation for 20 years, many people want community. I guess, you know, the 100 and something people that are here in this room now, 124 people are with us. Everybody wants to be in community. And when you go around, you know, the spiritual communities today, everybody has a dream to live in community. But until they actually experience that. Right? Because when you experience that, it's like the difference between dreaming about relationship and having relationship. And for me, you guys have wisdom of experience, of actually how to, what does it mean to have commitment to community? What does it really mean beyond the romance, the romantic ideas about it? And yes, for me, the healing of love and sexuality is key for community. And I would love to, you know, we'll go deeper into that about transparency and freedom and all the issues that we love. I just want to salute to you, actually, my friends, for your living experience and living wisdom. And I think we all have a lot to learn from you guys.
Thank you, Ohad. Before we respond to that question, I wonder what Dawn says, just as an introduction to the issue and the title.
There is so much that was moved from me just to see even the opening video. I was brought back to the community, and I felt like I had tears of this longing, this recognition of how it felt so right to come there. And yet I question, why didn't we pack our bags and move there? You know, and like there's still, it's a question in my mind for years, like such an affinity to this. And what is this that we needed to make our own way in Israel and in our own community? And because it was really a struggle, and yet I think the pioneer spirit in me needed to learn it myself. And yet, even though we did not have, we only had a community for some 5 years of the residential community, but yet we were living in many, many varying experiments, buying homes in a village and having community homes. But right now, more than ever, I feel impassioned that this is clearly the way to be. It cannot be that our life is meant to be in homes, and this whole stay-at-home movement, it just like it breaks my heart that we're all isolated in our homes and isolated from touch. And I feel like the urgency of this work more than ever needs, we need to create these communities so desperately. So I feel impassioned again, wherever it is in the world. Yeah.
Thank you, Dawn. Yeah, I think in Tamera we feel very much the privilege of community in this time, because we were actually locked down as a community, a big family of 180 people, and were accepted as such, which was a gift. So part of this existential phase of humanity, we had a very different experience than most other people, many other people. And I would say a word to community and love and sexuality. And on both you can speak a whole session, but the connection of it, that in my experience before moving into Tamera, into the intentional and also disciplined community life, I observed many groups and smaller communities, organizations and projects actually falling apart because of unspoken issues of love and sexuality. Mostly they showed up as love, or as power or money, but whenever you went a little bit deeper in there, the true competitive mind was more about attention, about erotic attention. It was, I mean, in the end, we will not say on our deathbed, we will not be there counting our money, but we will look back, what were the moments of love that we could truly live in community, in truth. And so for when I came here, I thought we need to heal love and sexuality, to address these issues so that they will not blow apart all the communities and the projects. And it's very interesting, right now it almost turns around a little bit that this is still true. And thanks to all the forces, Tamera is not driven apart by also the conflicts that lie in these areas of love and sexuality. And we notice more and more to gain true healing in these areas that we actually need community. Because what Ohad said about individuality, most of our love pain or our sexual desires, our fantasies feel super, super personal and individual. But once we start to open them, like either in workshop settings for a week or 2 weeks, but whenever we start opening them, we discover that these issues are way less personal than we think. Because whenever, I hope all of you had the experience, you thought you dared something that is really your personal problem only. And then you look into the circle and everybody goes, I know that. And this is a beautiful moment for personal appreciation. But I feel in our time it is much more. It is actually the systemic understanding or insight that these personal issues are global, are collective. Yeah. And so I feel the community is almost the vessel that is needed to heal love and sexuality. And then, of course, a residential community has its own challenges with actually having a beautiful celebration of love, for example, and then seeing each other the next day, and the next day, and the next day. It brings special challenges, and I think we will go more into them throughout this conversation.
Yeah, just to underline those questions, when you bring in, what does it mean for us? We started community life, it was 1978. And for me, it was really mainly when I looked around myself, I saw so many love couples, and so many love couples faced the same drama and had the same separation and pain and tears and so on. And this brought me to the question, how can we organize a social life where this pain is not necessary? And I noticed that we so often call love what is not love. And I started to ask myself, what is love about? And then I cannot separate it from sexuality. So how are these two questions connected to each other? And then Ohad says, maybe in our modern time, we became more individual. And my feeling is, to become a real individual, you need the reflection of a community. So many people think they are an individual beings, but they don't notice anymore how much we are driven by imperialistic patterns and conditionings. And for me, it's a real life question to figure out, who are we really? And then we discover that there is something what we all share. So like we live all on the same planet, we have all the same sun, we have all the same water. Do we take responsibility for it in the name of coming in resonance? And then everybody of us says, I am. And when I look, what makes it possible that I can speak here, then I can say, wow, nothing of this I have done myself. So, and nevertheless, I know that I'm looking with very different eyes to the world than Benjamin or Dawn or Ohad. And to become this really to say, here I am, and knowing what this I is, I need community for this. And mainly our start point was that we wanted to create a surrounding where love is free from fear. And in the beginning, we thought 3 years, and then we have solved it. We made a lot of theater work and performances and so on. And then knowing that we face a trauma of humanity, which is really thousands and more, 5,000 years or even older. And then it's more easy to take the task not too personal if there is pain and love, or if our longings are not fulfilled. To look level to these questions enables us to find it as a research issue and not on a too personal level we want fulfillment. This won't work. Then I think I would run away from a community very quick. So a marriage is already quite a challenge, and community is a challenge as big, yes, as a marriage. And this was the beginning, that we said we want to stay together for 3 years like we would be married. And we want to make things transparent where we normally don't speak about. And I think this was the beginning, what gave us the basic trust and solidarity, which is needed for all those questions.
Yeah, thank you.
So important things, I think, that you say that I hated that sometimes the wind was blowing and made us not actually hear the words well. Maybe it's time for you guys to, if it's easy for you to find shelter from the wind, I don't know.
Okay, give us 2 minutes. I must say I'm glad because there was no wind before the invocation. So it worked really well. But now we go inside because it's too loud. Give us 2 minutes.
Good that my invocation didn't make fire everywhere.
So in the meantime, perhaps we can speak to this that really, for me, was touched. That this issue of transparency and really breaking down the what is my personal issue only. I think I know Ohad and I have been in relationship for oh goodness, 18 years already. In what we call an open relationship, for lack of a better word, expanded love relationship, and really this question of the transparency is there really isn't a question. It's how we choose to live, and I feel that we've discovered the deepest heart longings and the deepest places of shadow and that little kernel of place where you don't want to admit that you are like this, or you have these thoughts. And when really you can get the group gaze or the reflection from your partner, it's so affirming that this is human, or this is that you are seen and you're no longer in hiding and in shadow. And I know we have brought it out to our community, and we've really expanded with perhaps we will talk about forum later, but forum, through this tool of forum, it was also a beautiful way to share the community gaze through transparency. And I think it's something that we're really we bring into ISTA, into the core team as well. And it's a beautiful issue. Pele, do you want to speak into that or anything?
Yeah, I really loved what you said, Sabine, about individuality, that in so many ways we think we're individuals in modern times, but we're so brainwashed. We're fucking so brainwashed that we don't notice how much we're not individuals so much until we get the reflections from loving community members, and it's about I think it's about the quality of the community that have the gaze on the individual. I mean, here in Israel we had the kibbutz movement that flourished for 3 generations and crashed because of many reasons, but one of them was actually that it didn't recognize the individual. It didn't recognize the uniqueness and the gift and the beauty and the dreams and the sorrow of the individual. It was a kind of a Zionist machine of building the country. And a lot of ideology can take over sensitivity, and that happens in communities, and it happened in the kibbutz movement. I think the quality of community is so important, so we get a deep gaze of our friends, a loving gaze, and that's what I think you call the community of trust. I would actually love you to expand on that. I would, you know, we in ISTA, we're a global community in many ways, and what we're doing is we're going from place to place, and we evoke the elements and the fire and we take whatever 50 people that are ready to wake up, and the seminars are just like waking their life force and waking them to recognize that sexuality is life force, and you can't be a free human being if you didn't free your sexuality from repression and your love. But then we're facing the other question, which you guys, I feel, have one of the keys, at least, or some of the keys for how do individuals who woke up to a certain degree, of course, we're not all the way woken up, individuals that are waking up, how can they gather in and create communities of trust? And what are the pitfalls that they should be aware of, not to fall into? I know no one who is best than you guys to describe that. So would you share with us?
Okay, this time I start. So now you should hear us better. Yeah, community of trust. Actually, it's interesting that this project has been going on for 40 years. And I've been here for a little more than 20 years. And after dedicating so much energy to this work, then oftentimes the results become very simple. So in a way, the community life has boiled down to 3 main principles that are very beautiful to look at, also in the context of healing, love, and sexuality, which is truth and transparency, mutual support, and responsible participation in the community and beyond.
Again, truth and transparency.
Yes. Mutual support and responsible participation.
Okay, double click on that.
So it's all of them are really worthwhile to look into, also in the context of love and sexuality. And I will actually start now from the back. Responsible participation. In love and sexuality, I think everybody knows how engaged one is if you are enamored, you are in love, you are turned on. And just that aspect of community, and I don't mean it as a moral standard, but I mean it towards an inner experience, that actually participating in the conflicts and in the ups and downs, the turbulences and the ecstasies of other community members is as valuable, and I put that as a future goal, as your own. And that is something, imagine that in love and sexuality. I mean, really, really concretely, you're in love and there's another man in love, let's say with the same woman. And just as an ideal in community, you are participating in his joy of celebrating that love. And I say it with humor because I'm sure everybody listening knows the other part of it, but still to hold that as an inner image. This is where we can go as humanity in community. And what it needs very much in my understanding and experience so far is transparency, because everything that happens in the secret is double threatening. And I believe all of us tend to project our fear phantoms onto the others. Something is going on with them, and especially like if I have a lover and my lover comes out of a beautiful experience with another person, I will project all my own insufficiency into idolizing them. I mean, this man must have been the lover of the life now. Until I come to the point of transparency, until I come to the point that they actually share potentially their joy, their ecstasy, maybe even experiences that I did not have with that lover yet. And still in the sharing, it becomes part of my experience. And the whole fear system is starting to at least soften up. And this transparency is a really important part because it is not about telling everybody all the time what you did or what you will do. Transparency is very much about the possibility or the capacity to actually show yourself, because there's magic in it. When you manage to show yourself either in joy or in pain, it has the same effect. The community will resonate with you, and the result is, I say love. That's far-fetched, but there is a resonance and an empathy, a natural empathy, if somebody fully shares what they experience inside. And their transparency is nothing formal, but it is really to build that capacity to show, to let other people in of what is going on with me. And the promise is, and the experience is, if I share, Ohad, and that I had a beautiful experience, let's say, with your lover, and I really managed to share beyond my fear how beautiful it was, I know whatever your reaction might be, there's also an empathy part of you that resonates with it, because this is how love is meant. Yeah, one approach to the answer.
I wonder what would you consider as transparency that is unneeded, is making things boring? Like I'm sure you met that in community time of like, okay, I don't need to know everything. You're, you know, each time you enter the vagina or go out the vagina or whatever it is, it's like, it's boring. And on the other hand, what, like as an artist, I know I sometimes like to share, but sometimes I need to, you know, if I'm writing a poem, I need to keep it in pregnancy, you know, is a creation also for, maybe for relationships, for love. Maybe there is like a pregnancy time that you need to keep things protected from. What do you say about that? I really don't have an answer, I'm asking.
I think it's very important that we look, you know yourself when you don't want to share because you feel pregnant and you should not speak about it, and when is it because of fear. And so for me, this is the main line where we do the research in the community. When I asked myself, someone of the participants wrote, Sabine, but what is love? And here we can start with this question, what is love? And then I noticed that we mainly, because we all are so traumatized, that we follow a fear of loss in love. And we call something love where healing is needed. For example, if I say asthma doesn't belong to breathing, I think we all agree. But in our love definitions, there is normally, for example, in the society, very clear, if he goes with another one, I will kill him. Or there is something of jealousy where we feel so natural about. And normally we don't dare to show it, we hide it. And this is not a healthy part of pregnancy. This is something where a revelation is needed to heal the wounds. And for example, I love the sentence, jealousy doesn't belong to love. But we all know jealousy. So it's not about hiding it, but how can we heal these wounds? And then we come to the point of where I feel now I need to be transparent. Many people, they are alone. They feel lonely. They have so many tears. They have maybe sometimes opening party, they meet, they have sexuality together, and afterwards they have no vessel where to go to, where to share. So there for me, this is the healing work we have to, with a lot of patience, to figure out how does it want to be built. And then it's clear that we don't share everything. Everything can become an ideology. Free love can become an ideology. Marriage can become an ideology. But there is something where we know the inner truth, and the inner truth cannot be betrayed. So, for example, the inner truth cannot be betrayed. There are millions of opinions, but something where you know, here is truth. And this is very much about this trusting contact, or being ready to reveal yourself. Yeah, these are the points. And when you ask there, if you are in community and people don't dare to reveal themselves, it becomes very boring, very quick. You sit together, so many opinions. And we had to invest art. We had to invest ways of performance. Sometimes we said for 4 days, now we won't talk about any personal problem. We only paint, or things like this, yeah. And this was the beginning. Now we grew, and it's much more challenging to find the organization where everybody can find his individual development as well as we find a common coherency in the community. So I would say we still are in the birth giving of a big vision. And for me to ask, why could we come through? How are we still existing? Often people say, oh, you are happy, you have community. But we also were 3 in the beginning. And the main thing was the readiness to really solve the problem. We knew there must be a solution. And this is still that I feel the compassion to the world, the compassion to what is happening on this globe, gives you a lot of strength to stay if you face moments where you don't see the solution at all. So it's always also the community needs a common goal. It needs something where we all together say, yes, here we need an answer, yeah. And maybe at the end, very often we are confronted that people say, but free sexuality only leads to violence. And this, for me, would say, if we would say free the water, it will only lead to violence. We would never say this. But if the water is suppressed for so many, such a big time, and then suddenly the wall opens, then the water creates a lot of damage. And so we have to face that there are hidden suppressions, that there are hidden trauma points, which needs a lot of awareness, where we need to build love schools to face it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's in this we share so much, the Love School of Tamera, which actually the 4 of us, you know, I remember when we sat and said, like, let's do a global love school or whatever it was, and then ISTA came into our life, and you continued with the global love school, and Don and I continued with ISTA, and I feel these 2 schools are doing such an amazing work in the world in different ways. And for me, you know, I share the yearning that that your wisdom about community will be shared with the ISTA community more. And I want to give an example that Don and I witnessed some months ago. Yeah, we've been in a community somewhere that of the ISTA people, really advanced people, a beautiful group of advanced people. But they were not advanced in community life. Like no actually experience. There was a huge experience in listening to your soul, in going into transpersonal levels of sexuality. I mean, really, really awakened people, but how to come together and create deep trust wasn't there. So one of the occasions, an example that really rang a bell for me was that when one participant, one person came and spoke and was really, really emotional in speaking against something. And she shared herself, you know, it was a sharing circle, and she really shared herself, and with tears and everything. She was like really sharing. But she didn't share everything. We didn't know that she didn't share everything. It took time, actually Dawn with her senses revealed 2 days later that there was one piece missing, which is the night before she wanted to have sex with someone and he didn't agree. He didn't want her. This someone belongs to that thing that she was speaking against. So this little thing was missing. So she was sharing, you know, transparently about her, you know, her offense and her opinions and her emotions. One thing was missing, the little fact. And last night I wanted to, you know, make love with this and that guy, and he didn't want to, and that offended me. So I was like, fuck, you know, if we don't have transparency, and the transparency is something that needs education. Just to know this little thing that you think, oh, well, I will hide this. This is not an important piece of information. It makes the whole difference. And how many times people would go to ideological war within communities and between countries, and they just miss this little unimportant piece of like some sexual frustration that they think, oh, this is not important, I will not share that. And I feel you guys do the work in such a dedicated way for so many years, and you educate about what does it mean to be transparent. And at that time, I think Don and I felt like, we so appreciate your work, guys.
Yeah, I think, thank you. We really were valued, and also for bringing the community building tool of forum, which I think once you establish more than, I would say, you would know, maybe 8, 9 people, you can start really creating a living body of work that I mean, an embodied work that you can share and you can mirror and you can reflect, and it's a beautiful opportunity to which we've found really to bring to groups. And there's a little bit of a tension. There was a tension between forum, which I think you can speak of, and there's probably lots of resources to learn about this tool, but also we brought it to the ISTA community, and at first it was really embraced, and then there was this kind of evolution of, well, the level 1 was an individual process, so it's not as much a community process, and there still is this tension. So what is happening now is this, the forum tool is being brought out into as a deep resource, and I think we're finally embracing it, because we see that there's a recognition of community and temples to land, and now we're finally ready. I think there's a maturity of the individual and the kind of collective experience that we have in a week or level 1 or level 2 or boom. And now we want to live it. We want to really say how, and that's why we're looking to you. How do we take ourselves and whether we're in a community setting of a communal co-housing, or we're in a real, like, we're at the edge of living in temples and creating and landing temples. So transparency and the difference between spirit and matter. And I think there can exist spiritual communities, but they don't necessarily know how to do the work on this earth. And so this is, I think, where we're bridging the gaps right now. Many different things in there. I was all over.
Actually, thank you, Ohad, for bringing the example you brought. And in a side sentence, you said, yes, communities and even countries going to war over this little unspoken part. And it is so true. I mean, if you start tracking it, if you start engaging, educating yourself, getting to know yourselves of the little bits that you wouldn't share because they are not important, or whatever excuse you have in yourself, you start to see how many of the upheavals and conflicts are actually rooted in this little bit that is not shared. And most of the time, this little bit is covered with, oh, it's not important. And then deeper, there is a structure that actually, well, this would have been important, but there's shame over it. There's shame either because you have been conditioned that this is bad, or actually, as in the example, and I don't know the people, but in principle, the example you gave, there's also shame about innerly knowing that this piece was important. And instead of naming it and revealing yourself, you start to attack, which happens all the time.
Yep.
And it is almost like when you start learning it, that people become professionals in speaking about their sexual ecstasy of last night. And sooner or later you notice, and still something in me gets bored. And
Yeah.
maybe that very person who is very expressive and graphic and detailed and no shame of nothing, but you catch a part where there's real shyness in the soul, where there's a real edge. And for me, the most important part of transparency and revelation is showing that edge. And everybody feels it. And some people are eloquent in it, and some people start to stutter. It does not matter. When you come to that edge and you perceive a person on that edge, you resonate with it. And then it becomes, instead of the part that blows apart the community, it turns around. And actually naming this little bit becomes the glue of the community, because you learn something about the human truth, which is true for the whole circle most of the time.
Yeah, and you said something before, Sabine, and I just want to underline it and support it, that the more we go personal to the most personal stories, we actually realize, oh, maybe one of you said it, I can't remember. We realize that it's not personal at all. That, and this is also, in ISTA we pay, especially in level 2, actually, there's a lot of emphasis about the transpersonal truth of ourselves. And one of the things that I think Dawn and I are sharing is the knowing from so many circles that do succeed, that when you go so personal, as you said, Benjamin, to this place where there is shyness, where there is where things are really happening, where there is life is being expressed fresh, the most personal, then it actually becomes not personal at all. It touches everybody. And I think, every author knows that. You write a book, you don't write generalization. You give a story, and a good story is a very, very personal story that talks to all humanity. Every film is like that. So the gate through the personal to the transpersonal, I think, can be really gained through deep transparency and trust.
For me, these are crucial points. Also, when we mentioned before the forum often people are so excited about forum, and I can see this work only in connectedness to the building of community of trust, because it needs a kind of development where you learn not to be identified anymore. And I think in any community where there are some people learning that the positive projection, the negative projection is not me, then the healing can appear. And as long as a forum's leader uses this as a power game, there will at one day appear the fear, the trust, the feeling offended, feeling defensive, and so on. And one of the people here wrote also, yes, how do you work with the shit? Because it's much more easy to say, oh, Ohad, you are so beautiful, I love you, you are attractive. But when I suddenly notice, oh, his face this morning, I didn't like it at all. Or what he said there, no, I don't like it. If we tell it so naturalistic, it creates always new conflicts. And the forum is mainly to support us that, for example, if I feel I'm jealous, that I dare to go into the center, to play my jealousy fully, so fully that I suddenly notice, wow, this is not me. It's conditioning what I learned. And I can say behind every wound or behind everything where we feel very shy and don't dare to speak, there is a treasure. And so the forum has the task to build like a celebration ceremony vessel that people dare to reveal the deeper level of shyness or whatever wants to be seen. We had just this morning, we had a love school here with some people, and one man revealed so deeply what he would not be able to reveal in a personal relationship with his partner. And he revealed this very special point where there is such a longing to become once more, to see her as the Magna Mater and to land fully with her.
The big mother.
The big mother. And on the other side, he noticed that she wants him to be the holder, the strong man, and how he overjumped this little point, not to make it really visible. And so many conflicts come out of this point where he doesn't dare to reveal fully this soft point towards his longing to his partner. And after this revelation, the whole room changed because he touched it in a way where I felt he spoke for thousands of men. And he said, and at this point, I normally become a Heiratsschwindler.
Marriage swindler.
Yes. I don't know the word in English. If you start to lie in the relationship and to play the strong guy or to play the strong feminine power, and in the background there are so many hidden points which you are not able to reveal to each other.
Actually, just for the sake of the word, it's a very beautiful word. The English word is marriage swindler, but it might not be present. But the point is, if you pretend, it comes from pretending that you want to marry somebody when actually you want to go to bed with them. So you promise them forever and the house and the dog and the children and the whatever to go to bed with them. And these are mechanisms that are not only in this first moment, but they keep playing out in relationships. And I'm sure the two of you
marrying them because of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And actually the two of you being in a long-term partnership, you also had these moments of, and I am in a long-term partnership, so she is. And there's always a fear that if I speak the truth now, if I'm transparent with that, it will be the end. And oftentimes when you do it one-on-one, it might come very close to the end, or actually it comes to an end. If you start revealing all of a sudden the unspoken truth. But actually community and transparency is a safety vessel. It's a safe container to reveal these things. And I hope your experience as well. Mine is that through these unspoken truths being spoken, the love experience and the trust actually deepens.
Yeah, I totally agree. Even though Don and I think our experience is, you know, through different communities in our lifetime, and many times just the two of us.
Mm.
And honestly, sometimes it's the two of us in different countries, in different places. Yeah, we face many challenges in this, in our 18 years of open relating. But for sure, I can agree totally. I wish we would have all the time a community of trust around us. It would definitely make everything high quality.
And it is true for the four of us that were actually quite deep conversations we had of using that container in times of crisis and transformation of relationship. I mean, we do know each other in that somewhat.
Yeah, Don.
Yeah, no, I'm feeling what's present for me in terms of relationships and sisterhood is, and it's something that I learned very deeply in Tamera, is the importance of sisterhood. And I think for us, we dance a unique, very unique dance, because we come in and out of communities, and oftentimes the communities can be week-long settings of temporary communities, so to speak, of trainings where we're also, there's different status roles. So it gets very, very intricate, as I'm sure you deal with also, roles of status and projections. So many of the projections that are hoisted upon me, sometimes by the younger sisters, is I have it all figured out, I know, and I should be the one who's championing it all. And I don't, of course, jealousy I've dealt with years ago, but that's another story. We've talked about jealousy. And I should be the one to bring in, to do all the work, so to speak. And quite frankly, it gets tiring. And yet I love it still. There's part of me that loves to initiate, and of course I honor that, and I think you know this, there's this sense, there's a big communitarian sense I have, and there's a queen. And so if the queen inside me is not recognized, I feel very offended. And it often doesn't take much. It really doesn't take much for me to, for a younger sister, or occasionally sister my age, but not as often, to reach out and say, I see you, I acknowledge you. And it's not about may I, or all of the things. It's not about permission. I'm not writing a permission slip. I'm saying, see me. What's that, honey?
Just clarify, you're talking about my lovers, right? Coming to, that's
oh
what.
Goodness, yes. And in this case, it's mostly Ohad, but it's happened with other beloveds that I've had.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes,
not only mine.
it's you.
Lovers,
it's you.
Yeah.
So I wanted, address the issue of sisterhood, because sometimes it's taken years for me to really warm up to sisters and become close, and it's painful. It's a painful process. So I'm sure many of us would love your wisdom and any experience, as well as mine, but I'd love to hear yours.
Well, thank you for speaking so frankly and beautiful. I remember when I came to know you, I don't know, 18 years ago, maybe, when you came to know Ohad, and he was running a community, and how in the community, everybody reacted with a certain kind of jealousy, because suddenly a queen enters, and how to deal with this special forum issues, which comes again and again in different areas. And I have to say, I started this whole, that I decided to be in this project was when I was 16, my girlfriend fell in love to the same man like me. And we spoke about it quite a lot. And we thought, wow, it's beautiful that we could share everything, yeah? And then we noticed we are not normal. And then he was married. And then he was a teacher of us, and he started erotic contact with us. We were much younger. And then I said, oh, now we have to go home to your wife and tell it to her. And he said, no, she will never understand this. And in this time, I still accepted this voice of a teacher, but I knew, no, this is not true. There must be another way of transparency in love. And then noticing how much women start to become enemies in a moment where they feel attraction to the same man. But it could also be that we've developed a sisterhood and that we notice, wow, there we have the same problem with this guy. We share the work together to make him the lover we want him to be. Yeah. But there we know what kind of cultural shift has to happen, that in this moment not fear and jealousy and every pattern overtakes the game. And there the sisterhood between women, or what does it really mean to be in solidarity to each other? This is a very important part in it. And I feel in Tamera, I have to learn to be an elder right now. I'm 65 and my Eros life is not over at all. So to find the right way, yeah, to support the younger ones, but also not to go in this kind of old elderhood where you feel, okay, now you go out of the game, and really find this responsibility, this natural attraction. And there I notice we all need a healthy picture. I need to meet a healthy picture in my soul where I can orient to. I need a healthy picture of community life, a healthy picture of tribal life. And then we can see, okay, here we are standing, this we have not solved, but it will be a solution there for us. But I feel we only will be able to be ready to solve our conflicts or to make them transparent when we also see a healthy picture of a healthy earth, how we want to be inhabitants of this globe.
But we need to create this picture because it doesn't exist. And that's the chicken and the egg thing, because we cannot create this without a role model. And we need a role model to, it's like, we just need to start to make many mistakes on the road.
Maybe, yeah, you allow me there to bring one of my books in. This is the Temple of Love. It's also in English. And this was for my life really important, that I discovered that there exists a healthy picture in my soul. It was like a memory, and I don't know whether it ever existed real, but it's like a seed of a tree has all the information of the tree, that the tree can really grow and unfold its beauty, the tree of life. And I feel that because of the trauma, we lost this healthy memory. And for me, this was a very important moment where I noticed we don't have to create everything. We have to be creative, but the universe can help us to find back to this inner trust towards life. And imagine we would believe that in the center of the universe, the steering committee, the steering mechanism is love. And not a punishing God. And it's true, we have to create it, but also to notice something is there, and it makes a big difference when I relate to this.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. And also it expands the meaning of community from only community of humans.
Yes, exactly.
Community with the universe, and community with all sentient being. How do you say it in English? Sentient beings. Thank you. And spirit. And I think it's really, it's obvious for us, for the four of us, but it's important to say that I think when we speak about community, it's not only humans.
Yeah.
It will be very limited and very repressive if it will be only on the human level.
in a way, I will say one thing to the audience in general and say one more thing to that, but there will be, in a moment, we take a few more minutes and then we actually open up for Q&A also from the audience, just know that. And it's a beautiful thing. Dawn was asking about sisterhood, and it has to do with what Ohad is just speaking, in a way, the vision. Because sisterhood also has an equivalent. On the man's side, brotherhood is existential. When you start opening up and going into transparency, you need your fellow man, you need your brothers. And there's something where this can be, again, on a personal level, but there's also something where I feel the deepest solidarity appears when you notice that you work on this towards the same thing, towards the same vision. And there is something, and it's very current for me. My partner is very enamored right now, in love.
Enamored.
Enamored, and yeah, you know that. In love, to make it simple, not with armor, but in love. And the point that I'm looking for is not whether I like this man or not, or dislike, or say that he's not, but actually where is the place that we work on the same thing? And when I catch that, it shifts the whole game. Because I might still be fearful in moments, or I might dislike things, but this moment of working towards the same vision is essential in solidarity. And it was in the chat also, like, how do you attract your tribe? And I think it's really important for any community to strive towards a larger goal than living together. And the healing of love that we declared in a community of trust is a huge goal. I mean, that's a global goal for humanity. And this is something that can pull together a community, this vision, to also stay together through thick and thin.
Can I relate to that and actually make it maybe a little harder for you?
Go for it.
Yeah, because I think, you know, one of the things that is unique for you guys is actually the shared vision, and the way that the vision is so strong and hold the community together. You also in a community that was initiated by a big group of Germans, and you know the good thing in Germans is like you can be very ideological. But what about the hard emotions? So you can be, you know, sharing a vision with this man, but do you actually give space and tools for yourself and for others to explore those dark emotions and to express them in a healthy way?
I mean, as this is addressing directly, yes. And what I said was, I need this spark of vision to go through these things, to not just enter dark emotions, because we are all filled up with latent angers of centuries and millennia. But if you want to open them up, in my experience, it needs vision, and that's not only mental. For me, vision, the central visionary organ is the heart. And there's an ideology and an idea, but actually I lived in this project for almost 20 years until I actually sat on the mountain and actually saw the vision of that project. So I'm not talking on the ideas level. A vision is something, if you see it, it changes your energies and actually your emotions in that moment. So as you bring up this man and I move into a competitive mode, semi-conscious, unconscious, it comes into my consciousness. What gives me a possibility to really go into it and unleash it is if I know that there's a deeper stream of going towards, with the heart, towards the same vision, or seeing the dedication that might be with him. Mine is in political networking, and his total devotion is in ecology and healing the earth. And if I recognize that point, then I'm ready to go into the competitive conditioning that, that we grew into. So it's not a mental thing, the vision, in my experience.
I know you, and I can recognize that for you, vision is not only mental, I agree. But also I want to say that the shadow of having a visionary community is that it might be very mental.
I think it's fully important to be ready to face the dragon, to be ready to face the shadow side. And for me, it's so deeply connected. I think we have two brain sides. We have this kind of able to come to consciousness, I would say. The noise. There is, I like the sentence, seeing is loving. In the moment where you really can see something, the heart is open and there is love. And this is another kind of thinking things through than this kind of mind story. I also feel that where there is consciousness, there cannot be war. But to come to this point, it's important not to fear the dragon. And for me, what I said before, the forums work is very much about becoming aware of my shadows. Often I'm even not aware that I'm following fear patterns. So this is the work. And then we can meet, when I see a vision, then my whole body system is so full of it. It has impact to my whole behavior. It can nourish me for years because I saw something and I believe in it. This gives a lot of emotions. This has to flow together. And I feel we as human beings have to find the way that we find these two brain sides. I say the two dancing snakes, that they both are accepted. And this is like accepting the masculine side inside of us and the feminine side. And when this is really happening in a clear cooperation way, we will have a new culture. But there we face so many points. It was driven out for centuries. So it's clear that we meet trauma points when we start to do this work.
It's actually a very interesting point to also my question to you, because ISTA, I keep touching on the fringe and more people of Tamera actually visit your education. And for me, it's totally natural that in the ISTA evolution, the question of lasting community comes up. And this is a point where I feel it needs both. It needs these experiential spaces that are deeply and beautifully emotional and cathartic. And then maybe what you call the German element, the strategic and conceptual building of community, which then the next week and the week after also understands the experience we just had together. And for me, this is not an either or. This is something that actually my soul deeply yearns for bringing together. This kind of like, okay, this understanding of it and the moment of being present in the experience. And I actually wonder, where are you at with that question? Where is ISTA moving from these deep spaces of experience towards a more sustainable community?
Yeah, I think I said it before, and it's very clear. ISTA, from the beginning, our vision was to go and be like a lightning bolt, and like, wake up, and wake up. 50 people here, 100 people, 200, and then thousands of people, and then tell them, okay, now maybe you guys can create a community together. But at the beginning we said, this is not our role to develop the community. We wish it will develop, but our mission is to more do the lightning bolt, in different places in the world. And now ISTA is affected so many people around the planet that it is time, and we are aware of that. It is time to create communities and land the temples. This is the language that we use, because we don't only look at residential communities, but actually temples that souls can be safe to express themselves. That the sacredness of the human soul can feel nurtured and safe to express itself. So Haydn was one of maybe the first temple that was landed in New Zealand. And we're looking for several of us. Actually, I think maybe all the lead facilitators in ISTA are involved in this way or another too, in looking at lands in different places in the world, and looking at, you know, how can we actually land more temples. And we realize that it will look different from each other. This is one of the beautiful things that I love about ISTA, is that we embrace diversity. Also amongst us. We don't, even our trainings are not the same. You know, if you go to my training, it would be very different in the same training, the level 1 or the level 2, if you go to some other lead faculty and you experience the training under them. And ISTA is embracing this diversity. We want to really respect the differences of different instruments that we play in the orchestra of life. So we don't look at every community to be the same, but actually different. And we are at this edge, and I believe thousands and thousands of people around the world, many of them involved in ISTA, are actually asking this question. And I think this is the next step of this huge community, is to start. It will happen. It's happening already, actually, behind the scenes. It's happening already, but I want to give it even more power. We need to create temples. We need to find lands. We need to find ways to come together and really go into what you did 40 years ago. Agree to experiment. Agree to not know together. To not have the answers, but have the questions together, and be brave enough to learn from experience. So that's where we are at, and that's why Don and I felt like, well, this would be important to bring you guys into the ISTA festival, to celebrate your wisdom and to infuse these worlds of ours.
Thank you for your words. And just to say, it's really important that we carry this vision of the plan of the healing biotope in a way that we say there is a core thing which is independent from where at this globe, something similar, what we all have to see and to face. And then every community will be so different, like every partnership is very different. And nevertheless, to build community, it's so great to see what is the core which can support that it really can survive. Because I saw so many communities failing, and I want them to support that they don't have to go through all the pain. And so this maybe can be a cooperation work, how to support each other on this path. Yeah. I know, for example, you also know our friend Akan. He is from Peru, and he always carries this picture of the former Incas, where he said there were so many different tribes, but there were a century without violence because they knew how to cooperate. They knew a way without being imperialistic or saying this is the way, really this kind of interaction. And this is for me also a guideline for the century where we are in, from domination to cooperation. What does this mean? And there is, again, without finding the base of trust, we won't be able to cooperate. But our organism has to cooperate. My heart has to work with the lung, and the lung has to work with the liver. So it's a real system, what we can understand and open.
Maybe it's time to take some questions.
Exactly, please.
And also to tell the people, if you ask a question, you need to be agreeing to that you're on video and you're on Facebook Live. So if you speak, you just need to give you need to be consentive that this is not only between us, but this is to everybody who can watch it.
And that would be the moment, and we followed some of the questions. There were many in the chat, too many to follow while we're trying to speak and give to you. But actually now we would like you that you actually show up, and our tech moderation will put you into the picture that we can see you and feel you. Ask the question. Other questions?
Michelle, is this a hand up? Like you having a...
Yeah. Thank you, Ohad and Dawn, for inviting you, Sabine and Benjamin. And I feel like this beautiful gift for me as an ISTA community member to have your energy here. So thank you. My question is, as I've been looking at your site this morning, the first I've been introduced to you, I see a really, one of the most moving statements in solidarity with Black lives and your statement on Black Lives Matter. And I would like to ask you to speak into whether there, you know, as a mostly white community, what is the importance to you of making that statement in the world? Thank you.
Now, this could thank you for the question, Michelle. And it could take us into a whole start again. And currently, the racial justice issue and also the education on racial inequality is just really fully starting to enter Tamera, and we are looking into it. And on another hand, the community we are envisioning is also beyond these systemic, because whether you look at racial inequality or you look at the patterns of patriarchy or you look into the current state of economic global capitalism, they are all fear-based systems. So we say a community based on trust, which is healing our wounds of fear, will heal these different systems of oppression. And at the same time, it is like really a responsibility to not only accept more diversity, as Ohad said so beautifully, but actually understand how to call in and accommodate more diversity, because there are so many unconscious patterns between the races and between the colors that we can keep saying, oh, we are diverse, and do not really attract it in. So we are learning that. And it was a place of deep compassion, because I think, yeah, everybody who, this video that triggered this whole upheaval, it was racial, but it was also universally human. I mean, this man muttered under his dying, he called out for mother. I mean, this was, and a person in the face of global public killing that person, I think it shook all different systems of oppression. It was so that triggered us for this statement. And actually, Sabine also gave a very beautiful speech on it, calling out, thank you.
And maybe to add that we started an alliance. We are also very active in places like Colombia or in different places to build a global campus and to support the communication between different kinds of communities. And to live in a community of refugees is very different than in a privileged place like we are living here. And it's a deep learning. We did build the alliance, we call it Defend the Sacred, where we try to bring together political activism with spiritual connectedness. And there to come together with indigenous people, with Black people. Yeah, we have here some people of Cameroon, and to face what they have to go through and to find a way of communication where it's always the same question. Are we able to see our conditionings, and are we able to face us on the deepest truthful heart level? And this is always a work. It's, yeah.
Thank you, Michelle. And maybe there are more questions.
I think I see Matt having a hand. Oh, someone, yeah, here, yeah. Who's that? You're on camera.
Oh, Neil.
Yeah.
So I'm here because I work in these traumatized communities that Michelle was talking about. And I feel what the spirit of what ISTA has a lot of what those communities I feel need. And you know, there's a saying that Black wellness is the antithesis to state violence. And you know what? This is the wellness, I think, that is the antithesis to state violence in the institutions we're talking about. And then a cooperative group like this, online group that we're
We don't hear you.
by the host. I got muted by the host somehow. Okay.
I guess. Can you repeat? Yeah.
Yeah. So, so a cooperative group like this, on this group that we're meeting right now, you could find a way, exactly what you all were saying, is if you could find a way to actually have this be a continuous conversation. So it's not like the hours, the end, and then everyone's dispersed, but like, how can we continue this conversation on an ongoing basis? Because it's the continued conversation of where all the magic starts to happen, just like a community does, right? With Tamera, there's the people being there every day that the magic starts to happen. So I'm all about, like, I'm committed to actually building figuratively these temples in every community. And how can we actually work with indigenous communities, which have deep heritage ties to the traumatized communities? And how can I be a participant in such a group? And I would love to help make this happen in any way I can.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we're all aware that we need to expand to more diversity, and it's not only about sharing with them our wisdom, but actually to learn from their wisdom. When we meet indigenous communities or any community that is not the dominant white European culture, it's not that we come with only with gifts. We do, but we also are exposed to their gifts that sometimes they are not aware that they have, that they carry these gifts for us, and it's a mutual learning. So I can say that in ISTA today we're having this conversation. First of all, we're trying to expand to Asia and to Africa and to other places, and Palestine. There are all kind of things happening also behind the scenes, like in planning. And we took some big money from ISTA organization actually to put in support of people from so-called third world. No one loves this term, but like from countries that their economy would not allow them to participate. So ISTA actually would support them, and did support and will support. So we had indigenous people from Fiji participating, like mothers, and really like a native Fijian people in the Fiji ISTA, and people in South America and other places. Doesn't matter. We need to do more. We want to learn more, and this conversation is really, really important if we keep it intelligent conversation, I feel, because those conversations can easily become violent conversations of blaming and righteousness, and then it shuts off everybody. So I would call us to engage in those conversations from a place of trust, actually, and expanding in love.
Yeah. I would like to add one thing, and that is, it was before said, diversity, and there are so many different communities, and actually ancient communities that we can learn from. And in a way, the principles that I named are our distillation beyond the current expression or the cultural expression. Because if you start studying cultures that actually have been working for thousands and thousands of years, you see, it doesn't matter what the expression of it is, but there are principles and mechanisms of transparency. There are mechanisms of mutual support. In tribes, responsible participation sounds very abstract, but in tribes, it is natural to participate in the well-being of the tribe. So in a way, they are very simple. And whenever I look into indigenous communities, when I had a chance, I discovered these principles in some way or another. And I feel the same is true now with the global community that is emerging. it is mutual support, and what you just spoke, Ohad, of like supporting each other, it's like a mutual learning from each other on a global scale.
And maybe also what you said, Ohad, it's this also here to find this capacity to communicate. We have to find a level of trust. And when I look to indigenous tribes, for example, for them, it's always so natural to communicate with the Mother Earth. And for us, it's often we feel it's an old religious picture, but for me, it's not at all. I feel so deeply in the imperialistic times that we have done with the rivers the same like we have done with Eros. We have done with the earth the same what we have done with the women. We did not ask before we touch. And if we bring this verse back in a kind of cooperation, in a kind of partnership culture, this will be a shift which enables us to communicate with whatever nation we are coming, or from whatever, not nation, from whatever place of this planet we are coming. Yeah.
Thank you, Neil. And thank you, Neil, and the answers. I would ask for more questions. I don't know yet where Ohad sees the hands, but I asked, are there more questions in the group? And then Ohad,
there are 5 people at the bottom that have raised hands. Teresa, maybe we just go in order.
At first, I really wanted to share with you my deepest honor, gratitude, and love for what you created with Tamera and ISTA. This is so needed in this world, and it has cost so much power and love to build this up, and so much courage. And yeah, then I wanted to share 2 things about polyamory or free love, which were very important for me. So I think free love and polyamory, this is not an ego thing. It's not about me having the possibility to have many partners. It is about sharing love. And when you share love, then negative emotions, they have no space. When my partner tells me, wow, there was this wonderful woman, she had, wow, this was like a fairy tale. How this is so touching when there's really the sharing of the love. And and dealing with negative emotions, something which helped me a lot, and I can recommend, is the book from Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. Really being in the now. You are not your emotions, you are not your thoughts. You have the ability, because your natural state is pure love. And and now, like, my question would be, how is it possible, or how is there any idea how to bring this relationship, this community of trust in the healthcare system? Like, this is for me at the moment, it's so hard and so challenging, because I treat the people already, they coming to me with all these wounds, and I see our healthcare systems are working again, like in the same way. They are getting more and more, and yeah, this is a hard one.
Yeah, Teresa, I feel your passion and your tenderness, and almost really on the edge of tears, because you feel, and I feel that can be your strength and your liability. And as an impassioned woman, person on this planet, I think we don't want to lose that. When in the face-to-face connections with humans, to always remember that you're dealing with a human, and this is, the governments and the political systems are backing the healthcare and doing it in many countries poorly, but your strength is to when you meet, I assume you're a healthcare giver of some sort, is to really see the humanity and treat every individual as an individual and as a person, and it will spring forward into their lives, and they will feel that they are seen. So this is my feeling from you right now.
Thank you.
Just add one sentence thought. I moved into community from being a massage therapist and doing quite deep work with Feldenkrais, and actually working on people and touching core patterns, supporting the repatterning, and then release them again into the, at that time, the subway, the underground of Berlin. And I felt, okay, we need communities and another society attempt, because otherwise you break open patterns and they get reinstilled in society.
Yeah, just it's so much about a deep, deep system change. And what you spoke before gives you the strength to see the shadow side of our whole system. It's driven by fear, but you see also this, what you spoke about, love, and that we are not our emotions, that there is something much deeper and much higher. And I wish you all the strength that you can stay with this and stay with this truth. And from there appears an inner guidance which will help us to leave the sickness and to enter a new health system.
So, and if anyone feels, to connect with this question, please send me a private message.
Thank you. And I think we can take one or two more, please.
So I see Matt is up and he had his hand raised. Hello, Matt. I know you.
We don't hear you.
Hi.
Yes, yeah.
I think for myself, the issue around like trust has been kind of like a deep wound. And I've been like kind of exploring the intersections between like what shows up in childhood around that and that dimension and the adult dimension. And I guess the question I have is, how does what are the ways to join in to Tamera? Like I've read it a little bit. I see you guys do like visits, obviously not right now during COVID, but yeah, I'm curious about how to be a part of what you're doing, and if you guys have space like for long term, or if it's more like visits and stuff.
Thank you, Matt, for the question. And I would actually put that aside into an extra dialogue. The contact, it's sorry, but I would like to ask some more, give space to a few more content questions to all four of us. And the website gives you the contact, and we are happy to enter a dialogue about that. I would put it.
And maybe just to say that it seems that this season we won't have a guest season anymore. And these are a lot of challenges in the situation we are in. And my feeling is that we as humanity will be challenged quite a bit more, and we have to see this. So just on a level to find an answer, I feel it's not so much to participate in Tamera, but using the wisdom or using the books or study spaces to find nourishment in the healthy thoughts, to create it in their own surrounding. Just as one answer. I don't know when the next guest season will be, when we will be able to open again.
Thank you. So Sunnybell.
Oi. Wow.
Okay, first of all, I want to say that we are so excited to see you all, and Sabine and Benjamin and also Ohad and Dawn, and we are quite a few people here.
Wow.
And
Where are
so,
you?
we had a question. As a group
where are you, Sanibel?
we are near Pardes Chana. It's quite a
in Israel.
In Israel. In Aviel. It's a small village. So we've been doing this experiment of living together. All of us had education in Tamera, deep education. And we've been living in a house together for 8 months now, practicing a lot of the principles we learned in Tamera. And most of us also had education in ISTA. And we are really in this point of how to bring these two worlds to meet together. And we had a really deep, inspiring, so we work with forums for months now, led by Edith. And we are, we really want to bring these two worlds together. We meet many difficulties. Some of them is not living in a land-based community and how to build community feeling when we are actually within a village. We do have other small community houses nearby, so we are kind of creating a web of communities. And the question we have at the moment is what tips, ideas, inspiration would you give us to link and weave these two words together as bringing the knowledge of community as much as we can at the moment, and the tools and work of ISTA. So we have some ideas and we would like to hear some from you.
Because we also kind of did it separately, like each one of us worked with ISTA tools, and separately we were living together and do forums, but not really combine the sexual issue inside the forums and inside our common life. So this is the question.
I would like to thank you. First of all, it's beautiful to see your faces, many of you I know. So in short, about the first thing, do you know Damanhur, for instance? The Federation of Damanhur in Italy, which is another demonstration, beautiful demonstration of community. And their thing is that every household is a community, like you have the community houses, and then there is one big, they call it the Federation of Damanhur, which is a community of small communities. So, and they have books about it, and I would really, you know, Tamera is one of the most inspiring places on the planet in terms of community, and Damanhur can also give a lot of wisdom about, especially about that, about, I think, like small pockets that your household is a community and the other house is a community house and another, and how to create a confederation of little communities can be inspired from Damanhur. I would say one more thing about the ISTA and Tamera. First of all, as you see, we're searching ourselves how to breed, how to you know, fertilize each other deeper, not only sexually, but to really make love between those two entities. You all had ISTA level 1, which is just the beginning of the ISTA culture and work. And also, I believe you've been in Tamera for a short while. And it is beautiful. And then there is, in both worlds, there is depth upon depth of going deeper. For me, I would say, from the ISTA perspective, don't forget the aspecting. You know, whenever it's not only about, you know, emotional release and stuff like that, but actually, you know the tool of aspecting, which is some kind of our way of doing voice dialogue and meeting the challenges inside of us. And I would say, before we address issues in community, whether even it's in forum or anything like that, before, you know, if someone is challenging us, it will be much more deep if we do aspecting before that, and really put them on the pillow, as we say, and run the patterns and really go deep into the shamanic aspect of that. So when you come to the community circle, forum, whatever it is, you're already cooked in depth, and you're not coming from just a shallow level. Yeah, that can be one of the ways of really using ISTA tools and Tamera tools, like the aspecting and the forum.
Thank you, Dawn. And now I say to all four of us, it is 3 minutes we have left. And somehow we will not come to the remaining questions. Questions will lead us forward. And actually, sorry to the people who still showed up. It would be a moment, I feel, that each one of us can give just a final word in a way. I mean, that's the way it goes. Or do you have another idea, Ohad? You're moving.
We have tomorrow another talk. The two of us have another continuation of exploring together. Would it be the same? Yeah.
Yeah, we'll follow that with the link and for the next class. So the feeling that I have, especially from Sunnybell, also this inquiry of is to bring prayer into it, is to bring ceremony, is to bring ritual. It's not only in the body, it's not only in the consciousness or the spirit realm or the emotions, but also go into visioning states and use the different realms. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for this beautiful talk, and I look forward to tomorrow to so much more.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I don't have to add that much. It's great to see you there as a group, knowing that you did a lot of work, whether you go to the house or not, and that you succeeded at least. This is quite a bit. And figure it out how it wants to come together. And it's great to hear. It's also challenging us to find the ways to bring it more strong together, the different paths. Now Ohad brought a third path, the Damanur, which we are also very connected to. Yeah, thank you.
Good, thank you. And I would take it one more time back to the title, Healing of Love and Sexuality in the Community of Trust. And just as an inquiry even to each one of us, how much of needs that we put onto a love partner and a sexual partner could actually naturally be met in a community of trust. And what I mean is, like, I think everybody knows that moment where you see, now I'm asking this of her and the other thing and the next thing, which naturally would be beautifully shared between a whole community of different aspects living together and stepping in and resonating with these needs. That not all is put onto one partner. Yeah, maybe that inspires you to work for communities.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the air and the sun and the moon and the elements and all of the beating hearts. So may your day go well. You go well into the festival, and hope to meet you all later and tomorrow as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Same.
Maybe unmute everybody so